Well, there are more information come out of this whole Nexperia incident that I want to share with you. First, after the Dutch government seized the Nexperia, China banned Nexperia chips from leaving China. The reason for that is China want to, first of all, protect whatever the company is in China. Nexperia has 80% of its production is in China and 48% of its products selling to Chinese companies. So China is its largest customer. Nexperia is also important for automobile industry. The major car companies all are buying chips from Nexperia. So by cutting the Nexperia chips going to those automobile manufacturers, certainly will hurt the supply chain. And they will put pressure on Nexperia to deliver. And that's why the Dutch Commerce Minister already tried to contact China to see if there's some way Nexperia can get exempted from the ban, which is, of course, China said no. China didn't even answer him. China's answer is unfroze those company shares before we can talk. In the United States, there is an organization called Alliance for Automobile Innovation that represents major automobile manufacturers, including GM, Ford, Volkswagen, Toyota, etc. All the major car companies are represented in this group, and they issued a statement urging for a quick resolution because they said if it doesn't get resolved quickly, it will disrupt the automobile manufacturer supply chain. Subsequently, Dutch Nexperia fired all the Chinese employees. China responded by saying they're going to make Nexperia just a pure Chinese company, essentially saying whatever the Netherlands says can be totally ignored. They are the real Nexperia. Since the company is registered in China and it is a legally Chinese company, so the Dutch part could be totally ignored. And also the production is in China, and they can pretty much taking over the customers. And if the ban is lifted, the chips will go to the customers. For example, the car companies, they will go from China, and then the payment will come to China. That's what their plan, I believe, is. There are several things I want to point out. When the Dutch government said this is national security, keep in mind that the company Nexperia used to be a Dutch company, and then it was acquired by Wintec, the Chinese company, in 2019 timeframe. So if there were any secret, high-tech secrets that the company doesn't want the Chinese government to access, the Chinese government could have accessed it ever since then. So any secret would by now has already been taken by China if there were any. What actually happened is that the company was in dire financial situation. After Wintec bought it, it actually improved the company in terms of its production, and the loss of production is happening in China, more efficient, better quality. That's when the company was saved. That's when the company become more accepted by the automobile industry in particular. And of course, the Chinese market also helped out. That's what happened. So there is nothing that can prove the Dutch government's point for national security. There is no case to be made. In fact, it is Wintec that saved this company, Nexperia. From the Yahoo Finance, there's reporting saying what the whole thing started is because the several high-level managers in the company, and these people are Ruben Lichtenberg, who is the CLO of the company, Chief Legal Officer, Stefan Telger, who is the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, and then Akim Kemp, who is the Chief Operating Officer, COO. Notice both Stefan Telger and Akim Kemp, they are both German nationals. Only Ruben Lichtenberg is Dutch. These three executives filed an urgent petition on October 1st, requesting a corporate investigation into governance issues and the suspension of the former CEO, Zhang Xuezheng. And this action prompted court-ordered changes, and that's when the Dutch government seized control, frozen all the shares, including Zhang Xuezheng's majority holding. There are some smaller shareholders that are getting together, planning to file a lawsuit with the Dutch court about illegal seizing of their shares. So Zhang Xuezheng is not the only shareholder. There are other smaller ones that are in the process suing. Now, their reason for for file this urgent petition is they claimed the CEO Zhang Xuezheng was forced Nexperia to place an order with his other company named Windsky Semi in Shanghai worth a 200 million order. The company executives believe 100 million order would be enough. So 200 million is too much. And they think he did it just because this other company also belongs to him. So that's the reason for them to file this urgent petition, October 1st. There's not much information I can find, but assuming it's true, the accusation were true. Here's the thing. He has all the right within his power to make that decision. And if the executives thinking that this is wrong, they should bring this up to the board. And the board should make the decision whether they can fire the CEO. That's the whole purpose of the board, is the oversight over the CEOs and CEOs' decisions. The board have all the right to do it. Instead, these three just went to the court and went to the Dutch government to seize this asset, the whole company's asset, which to me it's utterly illegal. This is no different than robbery. And in terms of his decision, he can have very good business decision to purchase 200 million instead of 100 because he can get a better price. And with so much uncertainties in the geopolitical era, it's very reasonable to assume that he wants to have more in stock in case something happens. That's totally reasonable. Now he's buying it from his other company. It doesn't seem that's where the difference is. The difference is between him and these guys who accuse him of wrongdoing. They don't seem to have problem that he's buying from this other company. They only have problem that he's buying too much from this other company. That seems to me is the problem. It seems to me like a minor problem that happens all the time in corporate around the world. But instead of doing it the correct way first, which is to raise the issue to the board, they went to the Dutch government and Dutch court, which is why in China saying they colluded against the funder with the politicians and the court and the judges to go against the Zhang Xuezheng simply because he's Chinese. And I would agree with that. I think if this were a white Americans, they would not have gone this quickly, this far. At the best, they would probably raise this to the board. And the board would strike this down because this is a very simple business decision. So that seems like what happened. Does the United States play any role? Definitely, because Wintech, who is the parent company of Nexperia, is on the sanctions list last year. And then this year, they expanded the sanctions, saying not only Wintech, but all the companies who are on the sanctions list, their subsidiaries, as long as these companies own 50%, which means Nexperia is going to be on the sanctions list. And the US apparently even contacted the company, Nexperia, and told them that having a Chinese CEO is not acceptable. I assume they did that behind the CEO's back. So the United States certainly played a role. And these people, I suspect of being racist, disagrees with him on business decisions, but they take advantage of the fact that the US and China is having a trade dispute. And also, at this moment, the Dutch government is a temporary government. The Dutch government pretty much collapsed in August when the foreign minister steps down because the Dutch government couldn't agree on whether because of the Gaza situation. So the foreign minister steps down. And they already had issues in June when the far-right party, who's part of the ruling coalition, left. This coalition collapsed. So they already had issues since June, but August was additional problem for the government. So by that time, the Dutch government has to call on a new election, which will happen in 10 days, October 29th. So right now, the Dutch government is a temporary one, certainly a very weak government. When you have transitional government, these three individuals, they have personal vendetta towards the CEO because of their disagreement on business decisions, but also because the fact that their CEO is a Chinese guy. They don't like the fact that this company is owned by China. They don't like that. That, I think, probably is the most important reason for what happened. The Dutch government repeatedly said this is national security. If this is national security, China would have the opportunities way earlier, the information or the technology from this company. So that doesn't make any sense. To conclude, essentially what happened are three individuals, racist individuals, take advantage of the fact that China and the US are not now in the middle of a fierce competition, a trade war. And then at the same time, there is a temporary weak Dutch government. They took advantage of that for personal vendetta because of the power struggle within the company. And then the law that the Dutch government used is called the Goods Availability Act. The law was passed in 1952. It was passed during the Cold War era. The purpose of the law is to protect important goods, make it available. So it gives the government the right to step in when crucial important goods supply chain get disrupted. The whole purpose of the law is to protect the supply chain and make important goods available in extreme situations. What the Dutch government did so far is the opposite. By stepping in now, the automobile industry supply chain has the potential to be disrupted. And that affects major car companies in both Europe and the United States. So by stepping in like this, the Dutch government did exactly the opposite what the law was designed for. I'll continue to watch and keep you posted. If you like my program, please hit the like button and subscribe. And I'm always looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you.